You're not invited to your own birthday dinner." My dad's words hung in the air of our living room like smoke. I stood there, frozen, unable to process what he just said. Behind him, my stepmother Carissa wore this smirk that made my stomach turn. She crossed her arms and tilted her head, enjoying every second of my shock. "What?" I whispered, my voice barely coming out. Dad didn't blink. His face was hard, his jaw tight. This wasn't the dad who used to pick me up from school and buy me ice cream on random Tuesdays. This was someone else, someone Carissa had created. "You heard me, Maya," he said coldly. "Go to your room." I was 17 years old, and he was treating me like I was 7. My birthday dinner was happening downstairs in 2 hours, and I wasn't allowed to attend. The invitations had been sent. My friends were coming. The cake was already in the kitchen. "But why?" I asked, my voice cracking. Dad's expression didn't soften. "You know what you did." But I didn't. I had no idea what he was talking about. I turned toward the stairs, my legs feeling heavy. Carissa stepped into my path, blocking the hallway with her body. She looked down at me even though we were almost the same height. Her perfume was too strong, making me feel sick. "You really thought you'd get away with it?" she whispered, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Get away with what?" I demanded. She leaned closer. "Stealing from me." My heart stopped. "I never stole anything from you." Carissa's smile widened. "That's not what your father believes." She paused, then added in a lower voice, "And that's all that matters." Something clicked in my brain. This wasn't real. Whatever she was accusing me of, it never happened. She had set me up, framed me, and Dad had believed her without even asking my side of the story. "You're lying," I said. "Prove it," she replied, stepping aside to let me pass. I ran upstairs, my eyes burning with tears I refused to let fall. I slammed my bedroom door and pressed my ear against it. Within seconds, I heard Carissa's voice floating up from downstairs. She was talking to Dad, and her tone was sweet and innocent. "I just don't understand why she'd take money from my wallet," Carissa said. "We give her everything she needs." "How much was it?" Dad asked. $200. I was saving it for the dinner tonight. My blood went cold. $200? I'd never even seen her wallet, let alone opened it. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what she said next. "It happened yesterday afternoon, while you were at work. I came home and found my wallet open on the counter. The money was gone, and Maya was the only one here." Except I wasn't. Yesterday afternoon, I was at the library working on my history project. I had witnesses. I had proof. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone. I needed to gather evidence, and I needed to do it now. An hour later, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Laughter echoed through the house. Car doors slammed outside. My birthday dinner was starting, and I was locked in my room like a prisoner. I heard my best friend Ashley's voice asking, "Where's Maya?" Carissa's response was smooth. She wasn't feeling well. She asked us to celebrate without her. Liar, she was such a liar. I sat on my bed, trembling with anger and hurt. The sound of clinking glasses and happy chatter drifted up through the vents. They were eating my cake. Opening presents meant for me, celebrating my 17th birthday while I sat alone in the dark. I grabbed my phone and opened the voice memo app. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. "It's my birthday," I whispered into the microphone, "and I'm not invited. Dad chose her over me. I'll never forget this. Never." I saved the recording, then made a decision. I was going to prove Carissa was lying, starting tonight. I climbed out my bedroom window and down the trellis, something I'd done a dozen times before when I snuck out to meet friends. The dinner party noise covered any sound I made. 20 minutes later, I was standing in front of Miller's Corner Store, the small shop 2 blocks from our house. This was where I'd been yesterday afternoon, buying snacks while working on my project at the library next door. The owner, Mr. Kowalski, recognized me immediately. "Maya, back again." "Mr. Kowalski, I need a huge favor," I said, breathless. "Do you have security cameras?" He nodded slowly, Sure do. Why? I need to see yesterday's footage, around 2 o'clock. He studied my face, probably seeing the desperation there. Come on back. In his small office, he pulled up the footage. There I was, clear as day, at 2:15 p.m. buying chips and a soda. The timestamp was perfect. But then Mr. Kowalski fast-forwarded a bit. That's weird, he muttered. On the screen, someone in a dark hoodie walked past the store toward my house. The timestamp read 2:47 p.m., right when Carissa claimed I was home stealing from her. Can you zoom in? I asked. He did. The person's face was hidden, but their wrist wasn't. A silver bracelet caught the light, one with distinctive blue stones. I knew that bracelet. It belonged to Carissa's son, Ethan. My mind raced as I walked home. Ethan was 19, Carissa's son from her first marriage. He lived in our basement and mostly kept to himself. Why would Ethan steal from his own mother? Unless he didn't. Unless Carissa gave him the money and blamed me for its disappearance. But why would she do that? I snuck back through my window just as the dinner party was ending. Through my door, I heard guests leaving, thanking Dad for a lovely evening. Ashley's voice called out, "Tell Maya I hope she feels better." I wanted to scream. I wanted to run downstairs and show everyone the security footage. But I needed more. I needed to understand why Carissa hated me enough to do this. I waited until the house went quiet, until I heard Dad and Carissa's bedroom door close. Then I crept into the hallway. I needed answers, and I knew exactly where to find them. I'd heard Carissa talking on the phone 2 weeks ago about putting Ethan on a strict budget. She'd cut off his allowance completely after he failed another semester of community college. Ethan needed money. Carissa had money. But instead of just giving it to him, she'd created this whole elaborate lie to frame me. But why? I tiptoed down to the basement door and listened. Light glowed from under Ethan's door. I could hear him talking to someone on the phone. No, Mom said she'd handle it, Ethan said. Yeah, she gave me the money, but now Maya's taking the blame for it. My heart pounded so hard I thought he'd hear it. I don't know, man. I feel bad about it, Ethan continued. Maya's actually cool, but Mom said Dad would never believe her over Mom anyway. She said he's so wrapped around her finger that we could do anything. So that was it. Carissa was so confident in her control over Dad that she felt untouchable. She could frame me, ruin my birthday, turn my own father against me, and face zero consequences. The question that haunted me was simple. Why did Dad believe her so easily? I couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m, I snuck up to the attic, a place I hadn't been since Mom died 5 years ago. Dad claimed he'd cleaned it out, donated most of Mom's things, said keeping them was too painful. But I had to check. I pushed aside old boxes and Christmas decorations until I found it. A small trunk with Mom's initials carved into the top. Inside were photo albums, her favorite scarf, and at the bottom, a leather journal I'd never seen before. My hands trembled as I opened it. Mom's handwriting filled the pages, neat and careful. I flipped to the last entries, dated just weeks before she died. Carissa stopped by again today, one entry read. She brought cookies, but I can see through her fake kindness. She watches Daniel like a hawk watches a mouse. I don't trust her around Maya. My breath caught. Mom had known. She'd seen what Carissa was before anyone else. I kept reading, my heart racing with each page. The final entry made my blood run cold. Carissa called me yesterday, Mom wrote. She said if I didn't convince Daniel to invest in her brother's company, she'd make sure Maya never felt welcome in this house. She said she has ways of turning people against each other, and Daniel wouldn't even see it happening. I told her to leave and never come back. I'm writing this down because I'm scared. If something happens to me, someone needs to know the truth about Carissa. The entry was dated March 15th, 5 years ago. Mom died on March 16th. She fell down the stairs while Carissa was visiting. Carissa claimed Mom tripped on her own, that it was a tragic accident. I flipped through the rest of the journal, my hands shaking. All the entries showed a pattern. Carissa manipulating situations, creating small conflicts, testing how much she could control. She's been talking badly about Maya to Daniel, Mom wrote 3 months before she died. Small comments about Maya being difficult or ungrateful. I correct him every time, but I can see the seeds of doubt growing. Carissa is patient. She's playing a long game. This birthday dinner wasn't the first time Carissa had sabotaged me. It was just the worst. I turned to the last page, but it had been torn out. Someone had ripped it from the journal. I searched the entire attic but couldn't find the missing page. Then I remembered Dad's office. He kept important papers there, things he didn't want anyone to see. I crept downstairs and slipped into his office. My phone's flashlight guided me through the dark room. I opened desk drawers as quietly as possible, my heart hammering every time the house creaked. In the bottom drawer, hidden under some tax documents, I found it. The torn journal page, folded into a small square. I unfolded it with shaking hands and read Mom's final words. Daniel doesn't see what I see. Carissa has been pushing for more power in this house, more control over decisions, over Maya, over everything. Today she suggested I wasn't fit to raise Maya alone while Daniel worked. She said Maya would be better off with a more present mother figure. I told Daniel, but he laughed it off. He thinks I'm paranoid. I'm not paranoid. I'm terrified. Tomorrow, Carissa is coming over to discuss the investment again. I don't want her here, but Daniel insisted. I need to be careful. I need to protect Maya. The date at the top made my stomach drop. March 15th, the day before Mom died. Carissa was the only person home with Mom when she fell. My mind raced with horrible thoughts. What if Mom didn't just fall? What if Carissa pushed her? It sounded crazy, but after reading Mom's warnings, after seeing how easily Carissa had manipulated Dad tonight, nothing seemed impossible. I needed proof, real proof, not just suspicions and journal entries. I kept searching Dad's office. In the back of his closet, behind old golf clubs, I found a cardboard box labeled Old Home Footage in faded marker. My hands trembled as I pulled it out. Inside were old VHS tapes, dated and labeled. My heart nearly stopped when I saw one marked February-March, 5 years ago. We'd had security cameras back then, installed after a break-in scare. But Dad claimed they'd all been erased or recorded over. He said he couldn't bear to watch footage from before Mom died. I grabbed the tape and the old VCR player from the closet. I needed to see what was on it. I needed to know the truth about what happened to Mom. I set up the VCR in the office and pressed play. The footage was grainy but clear enough. I fast-forwarded through boring daily clips until I found the date, March 10th, 6 days before Mom died. The camera showed our front hallway and stairs. I watched as Carissa arrived, all smiles and friendly hugs. But when Mom turned her back, Carissa's face changed completely. Cold, calculating. I kept watching. 3 days before Mom died, the audio picked up Carissa's raised voice. "You're being selfish," Carissa shouted at Mom. "Daniel deserves better than a wife who questions his every decision." Mom's voice was calm but firm. "I'm protecting my daughter from you. I see what you're doing, Carissa. Stay away from Maya." "Or what?" Carissa stepped closer to Mom. "You think Daniel will choose you over me? I'm already more important to him than you realize." The threat in her voice was unmistakable. This wasn't just a disagreement. This was something darker. I was about to fast forward when I heard the office door open behind me. I spun around, my heart stopping. Dad stood in the doorway, his face pale with shock. "What are you doing?" Dad's voice was deadly quiet. "Dad, I can explain." "You're watching that." He crossed the room in 3 steps and ripped the tape from the VCR. "This is private. This is the past." "The past that involves Mom." I stood up, facing him. "The past that shows Carissa threatened her." Dad's face went red. "Carissa did no such thing. They had a disagreement, that's all. Friends argue." They weren't friends. Carissa hated Mom because Mom saw through her lies. "Enough." Dad grabbed my shoulders. "I will not let you drag Carissa's name through the mud just because you got caught stealing." "I didn't steal anything," Tears streamed down my face. Carissa framed me. She gave Ethan the money and blamed me for it. I have proof. Dad's grip tightened. The only proof I have is Carissa's word, and I trust her completely. More than you trust your own daughter. His silence was my answer. Dad released me and grabbed the tape. Before I could stop him, he smashed it against the desk. Plastic shattered everywhere, the magnetic ribbons spilling out like black guts. Go to your room, he said through clenched teeth. Now. I tried to explain calmly, to reason with him, but Dad wouldn't listen. Carissa appeared in the doorway, her face arranged in false concern. What's happening? She asked sweetly. Maya broke into my office and destroyed property, Dad said, pointing at the shattered tape. I didn't destroy it, you did, I shouted. That's enough. Dad grabbed my backpack from where I dropped it and started shoving my clothes inside. You need to learn respect. Dad, please. He wasn't listening. He packed my things with jerky, angry movements. Then he walked me to the front door and pushed me outside. Actually pushed me, his own daughter, out into the cold night. Come back when you're done attacking my wife, he said. The door slammed in my face. I heard the lock click. I stood there on the porch, my backpack at my feet, unable to believe what had just happened. My dad had chosen Carissa over me. Completely, absolutely, without question. I had nowhere to go. I walked for 20 minutes before I remembered. Aunt Beatrice, Mom's sister. She lived across town, and Dad hadn't spoken to her in years. They'd had a huge fight at Mom's funeral, and he'd cut off all contact. At 4 a.m, I knocked on her door. She answered in her bathrobe, her eyes widening when she saw me. Maya, what happened? I broke down. Everything poured out of me. The birthday dinner, Carissa's lies, the stolen money, Mom's journal, the destroyed tape, and Dad throwing me out. Aunt Beatrice pulled me inside and held me while I sobbed. I knew this would happen, she whispered. I tried to warn your father. What do you mean? She led me to her kitchen and made hot chocolate, the way Mom used to make it. Then she sat across from me, her face serious. Maya, your father and I fought because I told him the truth about your mother's death. I told him Carissa had something to do with it. He called me crazy and threw me out of the house. He said I was dishonoring your mother's memory with conspiracy theories. My hands shook around the warm mug. Do you still believe that? I don't just believe it, Aunt Beatrice said. I have documents that prove it. Aunt Beatrice went to her home office and returned with a folder. Inside were medical records, police reports, and newspaper clippings about Mom's death. The official report says accidental fall, Aunt Beatrice explained. But look at this. She showed me a medical examiner's report, one I'd never seen before. Certain phrases were highlighted. Bruising pattern inconsistent with a simple fall, and evidence suggests possible external force applied. Why didn't this lead to an investigation? I asked. Because the examiner who wrote this mysteriously resigned 3 days after submitting it. A new examiner took over and ruled it accidental. End of story. Someone covered it up. Someone with money and connections, Aunt Beatrice confirmed. Carissa's family is wealthy. Her brother owns half the real estate in this county. A few well-placed calls, some pressure on the right people, and uncomfortable questions disappear. I stared at the documents, my mind reeling. Can we reopen the investigation? Not without new evidence. The case is closed. But Maya, I kept these documents because I knew someday you'd need to see them. I knew Carissa would show her true colors eventually. She ruined my birthday. She framed me. She turned my dad against me. She's been working on that for 5 years, Aunt Beatrice said gently. She's patient, methodical, and now she has what she always wanted, complete control over your father. But I wasn't giving up. Then we take that control away. Over the next 2 hours, Aunt Beatrice and I formed a plan. We needed evidence that Carissa had framed me for the theft. We needed Ethan to confess on record. And we needed to connect everything back to Mom's death. It's a lot, Aunt Beatrice warned. And even if we gather all this evidence, your father might not believe it. He has to, I said, or I've lost him forever. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Meet me at Gordon Park at 10 a.m. Come alone, Ethan. I showed Aunt Beatrice. She frowned. It could be a trap. Or it could be the break we need. Ethan sounded guilty on the phone last night. Maybe his conscience is bothering him. Then we record everything, Aunt Beatrice said firmly. She handed me a small digital recorder. Keep this in your pocket. Get him to admit everything. At 9:45 a.m., I headed to Gordon Park. The morning was cold and gray, matching my mood. I found Ethan sitting on a bench near the duck pond, his hood pulled up, looking miserable. You came, he said when he saw me. You said we needed to talk. He looked around nervously. I can't do this anymore. What Mom did to you was wrong. Ethan's hands shook as he spoke. The digital recorder in my pocket was running, catching every word. I didn't know she was going to frame you, he said. I swear, I just needed money for rent and Mom said she'd help. She gave me $200 and told me not to worry about it. When did you find out she blamed me? That night at your birthday dinner. I heard her telling your dad how disappointed she was that you'd stolen from her. I confronted her later, and she said it was necessary. Necessary for what? Ethan looked at me with genuine fear in his eyes. She said you were in the way, that as long as you were around, she couldn't fully control your dad. She needed him to stop trusting you, to see you as a problem instead of his daughter. That's sick. I know, he pulled out his phone. But there's more. Last week, I was in the basement and heard her talking to someone on the phone. I recorded it because something felt off. He played the audio. Carissa's voice came through clearly. The girl is almost done for. Daniel barely looks at her anymore. Once she's 18, we'll convince him to cut her off completely. The house will be ours, the money will be ours, everything. My heart hammered. Who was she talking to? Her brother, the real estate guy. They're planning something big. The recording Ethan played next was even worse. Carissa's voice, cold and calculating, described years of manipulation. I pushed that woman down the stairs, and nobody suspected a thing, Carissa said. Daniel was so grateful I was there to call 911. He never questioned my story. People believe what they want to believe. I stopped breathing. She'd admitted it. She'd actually admitted to killing my mom. The daughter is trickier, Carissa continued. She has her mother's suspicious nature, but Daniel doesn't listen to her anymore. I've made sure of that. Small comments here and there, questioning her behavior, making him doubt her. By the time she's 18, he'll be happy to see her go. Ethan stopped the recording. I'm sorry, Maya. I should have shown you this sooner. I was scared of what Mom would do if she found out I betrayed her. Will you testify? Will you tell the truth? He nodded slowly. Yeah, I can't be part of this anymore. What she did to your mom, what she's doing to you, it's evil. I had everything I needed now. The security footage of Ethan walking toward my house, his confession, the recording of Carissa admitting to murder, Aunt Beatrice's medical documents. It was time to go home. That night at exactly 8 p.m. on my actual birthday, I walked up to my front door. Through the window, I could see Dad and Carissa having dinner. My stomach twisted with nerves, but I rang the doorbell. Dad opened the door, his face immediately hardening when he saw me. What are you doing here? I'm here to prove I didn't steal from Carissa, I said calmly, and I'm here to tell you the truth about Mom's death. Carissa appeared behind Dad, her face going pale. Daniel, don't let her in. She's just going to cause more drama. I have evidence, I said. Evidence that Carissa framed me, evidence that she killed Mom, and evidence that she's been manipulating you for 5 years. That's ridiculous, Carissa shrieked. She's making things up. Then you won't mind hearing this recording, I said, pulling out my phone. I pressed play on Ethan's recording. Dad's face changed as he listened to Carissa's voice admitting everything. His skin went from tan to gray. His hands started shaking. Where did you get this? He whispered. From Ethan, your stepson. He's willing to testify. 21. I pushed past Dad into the house. Carissa backed away, her confident mask cracking. I played the full recording, every damning word. Dad sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. When the recording finished, silence filled the room. "It's fake," Carissa finally said. "She edited it or used AI or something. You can't believe." "Mom," Ethan's voice came from the doorway. He'd been waiting outside like we planned. "Stop lying. I recorded you myself. Maya didn't edit anything." Carissa's face went white. "Ethan, what are you doing?" "The right thing, finally." He walked into the room and stood beside me. "I'm done protecting you. What you did to Maya, to her mom. I can't be part of it anymore." Dad looked up, his eyes red. "Is it true? Did you push my wife?" Carissa's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Daniel, you have to understand. She was in the way. We couldn't be together while she was." "Get out." Dad's voice was barely a whisper. "What?" "Get out." He stood up, his whole body shaking with rage. "Get out of my house right now, or I'm calling the police." Carissa looked at me with pure hatred. Then she grabbed her purse and ran. After Carissa left, the house felt different. Lighter somehow, even though the weight of truth was crushing. Dad couldn't look at me. He sat on the couch, his head in his hands, shoulders shaking. Ethan quietly left, giving us space. "I failed you," Dad finally said. "I failed you and your mother." I wanted to comfort him, but I couldn't. Not yet. The pain was too fresh, too deep. "You chose her over me," I said. "On my birthday, you threw me out of my own house because you believed her lies without even asking for my side of the story." "I know. You destroyed the evidence of Mom's death. You cut off Aunt Beatrice for telling you the truth. You let that woman poison your mind against your own daughter." "I know." Tears streamed down his face. "I was blind. I was so lonely after your mom died and Carissa was there and she seemed to understand and I let her in. I let her take over everything. You never protected me, not once in 5 years." Dad looked up at me, his face broken. "You're right. I was supposed to be your father and I failed completely. I don't expect you to forgive me, but Maya, please, give me one chance to make this right." Dad stood up and walked to his office. He returned a minute later with a small brass key. "This is for a safe deposit box at First National Bank," he said, placing it in my palm. "Your mother set it up years ago. She left things for you, things she wanted you to have when you were older. I was supposed to give you this on your 18th birthday, but I think you need it now." My fingers closed around the key. "What's in it?" "I don't know. She never told me. She said it was for you and only you." His voice cracked. "She always protected you, even from beyond the grave. She knew I might fail you. She prepared for it." The next morning, Aunt Beatrice drove me to the bank. Inside the safe deposit box, I found photo albums, some of Mom's jewelry, and a sealed envelope with my name on it. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were multiple letters, each labeled with a different birthday. For Maya's 13th birthday, for Maya's 16th birthday, for Maya's 18th birthday. I opened the one marked for my 17th birthday. Mom's handwriting filled the pages. "My dearest Maya," the letter began. "If you're reading this, I'm gone, and I'm so sorry I couldn't be there to see you grow into the amazing young woman I know you'll become. But I need to tell you something important, something I pray you never have to use but need to know just in case." The letter detailed everything Mom knew about Carissa, the manipulation tactics, the threats, the suspicious behavior. She described how Carissa had once worked as a nurse and knew exactly how to make accidents look natural. "I'm writing this as insurance," Mom wrote. "If anything happens to me, if Carissa is ever there when I get hurt, please investigate. Don't let her convince your father it was an accident. She's dangerous, Maya, more dangerous than anyone realizes." The letter ended with a line that broke my heart. "Your father loves you more than anything, but he's vulnerable. Men like him, who love deeply, can be manipulated easily when they're grieving. If he ever chooses someone else over you, remember that it's not his fault entirely. Carissa is very good at what she does, but also remember that you deserve better. You deserve a father who sees through lies and fights for you. Make him earn back your trust. Don't settle for less than you deserve. I looked up at Aunt Beatrice, tears streaming down my face. She knew everything that would happen. Your mother was smart. She protected you the only way she could. That night, I returned home. Dad was waiting, looking like he hadn't slept. I sat across from Dad at the kitchen table. Between us lay all the evidence, the recordings, the medical reports, Mom's letters, everything. I'm staying, I said, but things are going to be different. Dad nodded quickly. Anything, whatever you need. First, we're going to the police tomorrow. Carissa doesn't get to walk away from what she did to Mom. Agreed. Second, we're starting therapy. Both of us together. You need to understand how badly you hurt me, and I need to learn how to trust you again. I'll call tomorrow. Third, you're going to repair things with Aunt Beatrice. She tried to save us, and you pushed her away. I already called her. I apologized. She's coming for dinner tomorrow. He paused. She said she's proud of you. I felt tears building but held them back. Last thing, I make my own decisions now. About school, about my future, about everything. You gave up the right to control my life when you threw me out. Dad's face crumpled. Maya, I will regret that moment for the rest of my life. But you're right. You're almost an adult, and you've proven you're stronger and smarter than I ever gave you credit for. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Dad spoke again. Can I ask you something? What? Can we try again? Can we have your birthday dinner tomorrow? Just us, Aunt Beatrice and Ethan. He turned in his mother to the police today. He deserves to be part of this family if he wants to be. I thought about it. About Mom's letter telling me to make Dad earn back my trust. About the long road ahead of us. About forgiveness and second chances. Okay, I said finally, but I pick the restaurant. Dad smiled for the first time in days. Deal. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You don't know the whole story about your mom. Call me. I stared at the message, my blood running cold. Just when I thought everything was resolved, someone was suggesting there was more to uncover. I showed Dad the text. His face went pale. Who could this be? I asked. I don't know, he whispered. But we're going to find out together. I promise you, Maya, no more secrets, no more lies. Whatever this is, we face it as a family. I looked at my father, really looked at him, and saw something I hadn't seen in 5 years, determination to protect me. It wasn't enough to fix everything, but it was a start. I saved the unknown number and replied, Tomorrow, 3 p.m., Gordon Park, don't come alone. Whatever came next, I was ready. I had Dad, Aunt Beatrice, and the truth on my side. Carissa's shadow was gone from our house. And for the first time since Mom died, I felt like I had my father back.